SolarByGreenGreg here, and today we're going to talk about the Enphase solar battery review. What is the difference between the Enphase IQ battery 10C versus the 5P battery? I'm going to talk about the specs and advantages, how many Enphase batteries do I need, and when to use the IQ 10C battery versus the 5P battery. The answer may surprise you, so stay tuned. Let's get to it. So the Enphase 10C battery versus 5P installation. In the top here, you'll notice we got 7 enclosures. For the 10C battery, down to only 3 enclosures. This is less wall space, simpler and easier installation, and better reliability. And you know, although it looks okay to have all this wall space in these enclosures, the other thing is it's not real life. Here is real life. In Florida, we have to actually mount batteries in the garage. And oftentimes you have a bunch of stuff in the way. You know, appliances, doors, windows, things hanging on the wall. And this customer wanted a battery. I think they need a shed. So, you know, having to have all those enclosures and wall space, it makes it very complicated to plan out where to put things and how to fit them. And, you know, just again, complicated. And so let's compare the size of the IQ 10C battery versus the 5P battery and test a Powerwall 3. Well, to have a 10 kilowatt hour battery, you actually need 2 of the 5P batteries side by side. And the 10C battery's got 2 batteries that are stacked. And so you have 19 inches less in width with a 10C battery and 14 inches less in height. So this square size is more compact and more flexible mounting locations. Now also on the right hand side here, I have the Powerwall 3. The 10C is 20 inches less in height. This is huge. And again, this will make it easier to mount near a circuit panel or near a window, for instance. You know, a lot more possibilities to fit that square box versus a long rectangle. Now, one disadvantage of the 10C battery, by the way, is it's 14 inches in depth versus 7 inches for the Powerwall or the 5P battery. So some older garages, older homes, you might have a narrower garage. It might be something you have to pay attention to. And then let's look at the 10C spacing. You only have to space them 6 inches apart. So again, overall, there's gonna be a lot better use of wall space. Enphase IQ battery 10C can be wall mounted or pedestal mount. And the Enphase 10C does need to be used with the Enphase IQ meter collar. This is brand new. This eliminates the need for a separate transfer switch or critical loads panel, and it has integrated consumption CTs. Okay, the IQ meter collar is compatible with the 10C battery with a 6C controller, which I'll talk about in a minute. And it's also compatible with a 5P battery if you use the IQ System Controller 3M. So the IQ meter collar installs on a utility meter socket, and it does require utility company approval. However, if you don't have utility approval, you might be able to set up a separate meter pan. And so far, this is the list of utilities that have approved the IQ meter collar so far. Of course, this is always changing. So check the Enphase website or check your local utility. The IQ battery 10C does require the IQ meter collar that I just showed you, and also requires the IQ combiner 6C. This again integrates some functions that were previously in the Enphase controller. So let's look at the inside of the 5P battery. It had the microinverters on top. And this is what's great about Enphase is there is some redundancy. If one of those microinverters fails, the system will still operate. Now let's look at the 10C battery inside view. Microinverters, but these are on the side. And this allows them to have more of a cube shape rather than a rectangle shape. Also, by the way, the microinverters inside the 10C, 2 of them are 120 volt, and that allows a neutral forming. And the 10C has two 5 kW batteries stacked. So now let's look at the Enphase 10C spec sheet versus the Enphase 5P spec sheet. The battery chemistry for both batteries is LFP, lithium iron phosphate. This is a safer chemistry, less chance of thermal runaway, less fire risk. A lot of new batteries now are LFP. Communication. Between the enclosures, both of these batteries are control cable wired. Okay, they're not wireless. That's more reliable. Both batteries, you have a mobile app. Both batteries have storm guard. Both batteries can be mounted either wall mount or pedestal. Now in generator support, currently the IQ 10C does not have generator support. I believe they may add this later on, but right now it's a no. The IQ 5P battery does have generator support. And by the way, for most people, this is not going to be important, but I think you should know about it. The warranty on both batteries is 60% capacity for 15 years or 6,000 cycles. Now, people often ask, how long will these batteries last? I don't know if there's a definite answer about that exactly, but if they're willing to warranty for 15 years, what they're saying is they expect it to last at least 15 years. And I think that's a long time. They may last longer. I don't think anybody knows really for sure, because it depends on the environmental conditions, how many cycles you have, how deep those cycles are, so it can vary quite a bit. But 15 years is a long time. So now let's talk about some other specs. The capacity. In this case, by the way, I'm going to compare two IQ 5P batteries, so we're comparing apples to apples. So in both cases, 10 kilowatt hours if you have two IQ 5P batteries, and you could scale it up to 80 kilowatt hours. The peak power output is 14.16 kVA for 3 seconds, 11.33 kVA for 10 seconds, and 90 amps LRA. This is to run air conditioners or heat pumps. I'll talk about that more in a minute. Versus 15.36 kVA for 3 seconds on the IQ 5P, and 12.28 kVA for 10 seconds, and LRA of 96 amps. Actually, the two 5Ps are slightly better performance, but I don't think this is earth-changing, by the way. So let me explain what these terms mean, by the way. Capacity is how much is stored. So think about an energy bottle. It's how much energy that bottle will store. Peak power is the most you can draw through the straw. This is only for a short duration, right? The most. And then we have continuous, which is a long duration you could draw out of that straw. And by the way, if you have 4 batteries or 4 bottles, then you could quadruple these numbers. Also for continuous power, if you have got 4 batteries, you could quadruple these numbers. And the same thing for capacity. If you got 4 batteries, you could quadruple the capacity. So this is why people add more batteries, to increase the peak power, to increase the continuous power, and increase the capacity. The more capacity, the more hours you can run off a battery. So for the 10C, the peak power output is 14.16 kVA for 3 seconds, 11.33 kVA for 10 seconds, and 90 amps LRA. For the 5P, it's 15.36 kVA for 3 seconds, 12.28 kVA for 10 seconds, and LRA of 90 amps. Again, this is for 2 of the 5P batteries. And by the way, that's most likely, most people aren't going to get one 5 kW battery. That's not enough to do much. And so the peak power output, again, is for when you're trying to run something with a big surge, like a heat pump, air conditioner, pool pump, things with a motor. LRA is to run heat pumps or air conditioners. And so let's review the LRA number. So people often ask, will the Enphase IQ Battery 10C operate an air conditioner or heat pump? And the same thing for a 5P. Now, in this example, it's a heat pump that's 3 ton, 16 SEER, 2-stage. Now, you have to check your own heat pump or air conditioner, and if you go to the back of the unit, you'll find a nameplate like this. On there, you'll be the LRA number. Now, I circled this one. It's 83 amps. So in this case, both the IQ 10C and the IQ 5P, if you get two IQ 5Ps, it'll power this heat pump. Now, if you have multiple air conditioners or heat pumps, then you may want to get more batteries, okay? Now, continuous power output for the IQ 10C is 7.08 kVA at 240 volts. For two of the 5Ps, it's 7.68 kVA at 240 volts. So a slight increase with actually having two 5Ps, which I find kind of interesting. Again, this may be because they use different microinverters in a 10C to get neutral forming. But it's not earth-changing. I'm not sure if it's a difference that homeowners would even notice, frankly, but I'm just pointing it out. Both batteries are AC coupled. The AC round trip efficiency of both batteries is 90%. So when you do conversion from AC to DC to charge the battery and conversion from DC to AC to discharge the battery for home electric use, you lose some efficiency to heat. So this is common, by the way. 90% is a reasonable number for this battery. Neutral forming, yes, for the 10C battery. For the IP5 battery, you need a controller 3 or 3G. This doesn't mean a whole lot to a homeowner, but again, Enphase has incorporated neutral forming so we can have less enclosures and less complex installation and eliminate the controller. The required combiner. For the 10C battery, it only works with a 6C combiner because there's some functions that are integrated in the new 6C combiner. For the IQ 5P, you must use the 5 or 5C combiner. Now let's talk about compatibility. For the IQ 10C, you have to have the Enphase IQ series microinverters. And you must have the IQ Combiner 6C, the IQ Meter Collar, and later on, Enphase is planning an update where you can use the IQ Battery 5P in case you've already purchased the 5P batteries. But again, if you're getting a IQ 10C battery, chances are you'll be getting these components. Now, for the IQ 5P, that's compatible with the IQ and M series microinverters, the IQ system controller 3 or 3G, and the combiner 5 or 5C, and the IQ gateway for grid tied and backup operation. Also, you can use the IQ meter collar with the IQ system controller 3M. So again, the IQ 5P is more backward compatible is what I'm saying. The integrated load controller for load shedding is available on both batteries. There also is a brand new IQ EV Charger 2 that allows faster EV charging. Let me know if you want me to do a video on this. Now, the Enphase Enlighten app allows you to control the solar, the battery, the EV, and load management in one app. And so I think this is the major advantage of Enphase is having the ability to understand how much electric you produce with solar, how much of it went to the battery or back to the grid, how much of the solar production went to the EV, the load management all in one app. So I believe this is a major advantage of Enphase and why a lot of installers offer Enphase as an option. Hey, before we continue, I hope you've learned something so far. If you did, I really appreciate a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. so you don't miss my next video. This also lets YouTube know this content is valuable and shows to more homeowners just like you. Thank you so much. Let's continue. Enphase 10C battery, combiner 6C, and meter collar IQ are all available in distribution for both USA and Puerto Rico. I do not have any information about Australia. There's some rumors that maybe yes, maybe no, so we don't know. And so far, I have not heard any news about availability in Europe or other countries. And so let me answer a common question. How many Enphase IQ batteries do I need? Whether it be the 10C or the IQ battery 5P. Well, we have to consider, why you're buying a battery. Is it a solar battery for home outages and natural disasters? You're doing backup mode? Are you doing it for time of use rates or electric arbitrage? Or are you doing it for off-grid use? So you have to look at why you're getting a battery and also how much electric you're using. The electric bills have to be analyzed. But just so I can give you a general idea, instead of just saying, I don't know, for small homes, you're not using a lot of electric, there's not heavy air conditioner or heat pump use, you can probably get away with one IQ battery 10C or two of the IQ battery 5Ps, okay? That probably be enough. It also will be enough to do a 3.5 ton air conditioner or heat pump in most cases. Again, you have to check the LR rating. If you have a medium home and you use load control, which again means that you could turn off some non-essential items like a heat pump or EV charging, you might still be able to get away with one 10C kW battery or two of the 5Ps. And again, I would double check though what the heat pump or air conditioner LRA rating is. If you have a large home and use the load control, you might be able to get away with 20 kilowatt hour of batteries, either two of the 10Cs or four of the 5P batteries. Again, I would double check the LRA rating of the heat pump or air conditioner, though, to be sure, and analyze your electric bills. But this will be a common configuration. Actually go up to as many as 8 10C batteries, 80 kilowatt hours of batteries with Enphase. Yes, Enphase can do very large homes. Is Enphase Energy a Chinese company? No, Enphase is an American company. They're headquartered in Fremont, California. They are actually publicly traded, by the way. Is Enphase made in U.S.A? Well, they do use some imported components, and they are doing some manufacturing in America. They're reshoring now. But just like automobiles, we're in a global market, and some parts do come from overseas. But they are a very well-known company, by the way. They have about 50% of the inverter market, over 80 million microinverters. Their microinverters have a 25-year warranty. Their batteries have a 15-year warranty. Their network is very strong, by the way. Every solar company is familiar with Enphase, and that's why I'm doing this video, by the way. I'm not getting paid by Enphase to do this video, but I offer to my customers. I'm sure that if you get a solar quote, that they may offer Enphase an option. That's why I'm doing this video, but I'm not getting paid by them. In America, they probably have the largest installer network of any company. So let's wrap this up in conclusion. Which is the better battery, the IQ battery 10C or the IQ battery 5P? Well, this all is going to depend a bit. So if it's a new solar installation, I'd recommend the 10C system in most cases. That's the 10C battery, the IQ combiner 6C, and the IQ meter collar. Because this is a simpler installation than the 5P battery. Less boxes, simpler installation, less wall space. Now, there are a few exceptions. If you're doing a VPP or the utility company has not approved the 10C battery IQ meter collar, then you might be stuck doing the 5P battery. Or you want to have generator support, then you might be using a 5P battery. But for most new installs, the 10C battery system is going to be the way to go. Now, if you have an existing system and you already have Enphase, you're probably best just sticking with a 5P battery system. And I'll tell you why. Because if you have all these boxes on the side of your house or in your garage, and you have to remove all these and install the new boxes for the 10C system, this is going to cost thousands of dollars. And right now, I don't see a benefit of installing these new boxes. I've just showed you the spec sheet, and the main advantage of the 10C system is simpler install, less enclosures. But if you already have these enclosures, there's really not a compelling reason to take all this down, spend thousands of dollars, and install this new equipment. Even if you don't have batteries and now you're installing batteries on an existing system, you'd be better off just keeping this equipment and installing the batteries in most cases. This is why Enphase is planning on continuing to support the 5P battery. So if you already bought the 5P battery, by the way, hey, you're golden, no problem. And again, existing systems, 5P battery is going to be the go-to in most cases. SolarByGreenGreg here. And on this channel, we cover home solar PV and battery, solar pool heating, and energy efficiency. And I do it all with any sort of sales talk or clickbait. Listen, I'm a homeowner just like you, and I know how it is. Sometimes you just want information, right? If that's you, you're in the right spot. Go ahead, hit that thumbs up, and hit that subscribe button. And by the way, let me know where you're from. It's always fun to know where people are from and how far my voice is reaching to help people with solar and energy efficiency. And feel free to share this video link with your friends, customers, and your team. Thank you so much. See you next video. Bye-bye for now. Here's the next video.